Hi. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight's going to be movie content. Today we are going to go over all 10 movies that I watched in the month of September. 2 of them are rewatches and 8 of them were new to me. Now, I'm here in my scrubs because I'm filming right after work. I half-assed a script while I was at work, not even during my lunch break. I literally had this on my desk and I was writing shit down in between phone calls, emails, and text messages. I mean, I swear to God, at one point I think I had the phone to my ear as I was writing. So this script is a jumbled mess. This video is going to be a jumbled mess, but like, do you guys expect anything more from my videos at this point? I feel like I can never get my thoughts across cohesively, and yet here we are. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first movie I watched in the month of September was The Last Thing Mary Saw. This movie takes place in the 1890s in Philadelphia, and it's a rich girl who has a secret with the housemaid. Little do people know that secret is that the two of them are lovers. It's one of those movies that has a very like eerie ambiance and a slow pace all throughout, and it was actually kind of impressive to me that the director stuck to that ambiance and that pacing. He never actually faltered, and it's just impressive to me because this is his debut film. Despite that though, I was not really a fan of this movie as a whole. It was boring. Oh my god. This was advertised to me as a thriller. The trailer made it out to be really scary. I had a few friends who watched this. They said it was kind of creepy. But maybe this is just either the director did a bad job or maybe it's just not my type of storytelling. I didn't find anything thrilling about this, quite frankly. I was falling asleep. I was sitting there like this, waiting for something to happen, and things didn't really happen until like the last 5 minutes of the movie, and by that point my attention span was out the window. I couldn't care less for these characters. I wasn't attached to any of them, and I didn't feel for their story, which is sad because it is a very upsetting and sad story, but at the end of the day, I didn't care. Given the vibe this movie was going for, and given that plot twist at the end with the grandma, this came off as a Hereditary wannabe, and if you know me, you know I thought Hereditary was a boring-ass movie. I don't know if the director was inspired by Hereditary, however, if he came out and said he was, I would not be shocked in the slightest. Also, spoiler alert, this does unfortunately have the bury the gay trope, which I thought we left behind a while ago. This movie is fairly recent. I want to say the oldest it could be is from 2019, but I actually want to say it came out last year in 2021. I thought the bury the gay trope was left behind way back when, but no, this movie brought it back. And I know that is upsetting because I know there are some people based on reviews that watched this movie because, you know, it was LGBT+, and a lot of reviews were understandably upset about that. So, fair warning, if you're adding to your list because of the representation, that trope is in there. And also, like I kind of saw it coming, like, within the first 5 minutes, and it was weird because obviously the way the story's told, like, it wants to be upsetting, it wants to shock you, it wants you to be sad and crying, and yet, but like, because I saw it coming and because I didn't care throughout the movie, like, I felt nothing, which kind of sucks given the premise of the story and what happened. However, having said that, in the last 2 seconds of the film, when the title of the movie suddenly clicks and makes sense, it did get a kind of a corny ah out of me, so I guess there's that. But at the end of the day, despite like the eeriness, I felt like the hard-hitting sadness of the film fell flat, and I ended up giving this movie 2 out of 5 stars. The next movie was a rewatch, and that is The Haunted Mansion. This is an early 2000s comedy movie starring Eddie Murphy, and it's about Eddie Murphy, who's a realtor. He's trying to go on vacation with his family because they're upset with how job-obsessed he is. Unfortunately, one of those vacations leads them to this abandoned mansion that could get him a lot of fucking money, and they find out it is haunted, and it's their adventures from there. This movie is heavily inspired by the ride at Disney World / Disneyland, and it's just a feel-good, corny, funny movie. And like I said, it came out in the early 2000s, so it's definitely ripe with early 2000s humor, but I'm kind of here for it. There's like early 2000s humor in adult movies and then kids movies, and I think it's done so much better in kids movies, and it could 100% be because I was a kid and therefore there's that nostalgic factor. But like, because of the humor, because of the graphics, because of the storytelling, because of the performances, I firmly believe if you do not like this movie, then you do not like fun. Rewatching this now that I'm old and have been on the Haunted Mansion ride a few more times, this actually makes this film more enjoyable because I could see like all the little nods. I mean, both the ride and the movie open with "Welcome, foolish mortals." And it's just kind of like plot points here and there, the whole Madame Leota thing, and also the way the ghosts are portrayed in this movie is very similar to how they are in the ride. I don't know how to describe it when it comes to the ride, because the ride is kind of, it's like I'm awestruck every time I go through that ghost room in the ride. Look up the videos because it's pretty, the graphics are pretty cool. But yeah, it's a rewatch, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, so I'm gonna move on. So then me and my dad decided to have a movie night, and we watched Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. This movie is basically a biopic of Elvis Presley. I have to say, I am kind of disappointed in how this movie turned out. I don't know what exactly I was expecting, but it just wasn't what this movie was. Plot-wise, I thought it was just okay, which I know sounds really weird because this is someone's like literal life, but it was just the way Baz Luhrmann told the story. One of my gripes with this movie is that it just felt like it was way too long. Oh my god, I think it's over 2 hours long, but it felt like a 4-hour movie and not in a good way. I would pause the movie just to see how much time I had left, and it's like, oh my god, I thought I watched 10 minutes of the film, but you're telling me I only watched 2. There was just so much going on in so little time. I felt like it actually dragged the movie out, and the pacing was very awkward. My other main gripe with it is that Elvis wasn't even really a main character to his own movie. It was more so that guy, like his manager, who was stealing his money that entire time. It's like, you're gonna make a movie called Elvis, but then make his slimy manager the main character. Well, Elvis felt like a side character to his own movie. Didn't really like that, and I thought that was an interesting narrative choice. However, some things I did like about this movie, I love a good montage, and Baz Luhrmann knows how to make those. There's just something about his movies. I never particularly rate them high. I think I've seen the majority of them now, but despite not loving them, I love his montages. He is the montage master. He has a way of mixing old music with modern music. Like at one point in this movie, they remixed Viva Las Vegas with Toxic by Britney Spears, which sounds bizarre, but it somehow worked. And I was kind of here for it. I do also like that this film actually attempted to explore Elvis's roots when it came to the style of music he liked. I know there's that big debate of whether or not he should be the king of rock and roll, because there is like a lot of strong opinions that he stole his style from the black community. And this movie has a way of introducing that topic. I like that they attempted to have that conversation. What I didn't like is that Baz Luhrmann did end up dancing around it. He never really answered that question specifically, and I wish he could have faced it head on. And I will say, despite my harsh feelings toward this film, I do think that Austin Butler did a fantastic job playing Elvis. He fit the vibe. He fit the look. His voice sounded, like his talking voice sounded very similar. You could tell this guy was fully committed. And I believe in earlier parts of the film, like the a cappella parts, that is actually Austin Butler singing. And he sounds very similar to Elvis. I will genuinely be shocked if he does not at least get nominated for an Oscar for this film. But yep, at the end of the day, I gave this film 2.5 out of 5 stars. So the next film I watched is another movie where Tom Hanks is a horrendous non-American accent. And that is the live-action remake of Pinocchio that came out this year. And what a hot fucking mess of a garbage-ass movie. The moment the grasshopper, what's-his-face, Jiminy Cricket, said Pinocchio, I knew this was going to be a shit garbage movie. And I thought it was just going to be the one time, but he keeps saying it throughout the whole film. And I don't know why it was grinding my gears. And I think it's just the way Gordon Joseph Levitt was saying it that was driving me crazy, but it was just so grating and forced, and it was clearly supposed to be comedic, but it fell flat. And like the more I heard it, the more like I could feel years shedding off my life the more I heard it. And by the end of the movie, I wanted, the last time he said that fucking nickname, I wanted to walk into Lake Michigan with cement shoes. There is something extremely uncomfortably uncanny about the way Pinocchio is animated, and I don't like it. And it was just too long of a movie that I had to deal with that. I should have just shut the movie off. I don't know why I kept watching it. But also, the main gripe I have with this movie is that Pinocchio wasn't even a little prick. The whole point of Pinocchio is that he's supposed to be a shithead, a well-meaning shithead, like he doesn't mean to do these bad things, but he's supposed to cause trouble. He's supposed to want to cause trouble. And you don't really get that in this movie. And like, he's supposed to want to cause trouble because like that, the whole point of the story is him learning how to live in the real world and how to, you know, obey his adults, basically. He needs to learn how to become a better person, but what is there to learn if he's already a good kid? Because they changed his characterization so much in this film, those bad actions that he commits in this version feel so forced. And it was weird. Because it's like, why are you writing the story about a kid who gets into these bad situations, but he was a good kid the whole time? Like, I don't understand. Like, one of the scenes when they go to, like, the island, you know, where they all turn into donkeys in the Disney animated version, he was an asshole. Again, that's why they turn into donkeys, because they were assholes. And he was more than happy to go to that island and cause a ruckus. But in this movie, you could see the discomfort on his face. He's trying to convince the other boys and girls not to go. And it was stupid. I wasn't here for it. Like, I wanted to watch a story about a little shithead become a better kid, but we didn't get that. I don't know what it is with Disney specifically, so scared to make their main protagonists little assholes. The villains, they don't mind making evil, but for some reason nowadays they're so scared to make their, like, hero protagonists have some kind of flaw. They're not even relatable anymore. Like, and then that was the other thing with Pinocchio. The reason he became a real boy at the end of the story was because he finally felt like a real boy. And part of that was the flaws, and that's what made him so relatable. But in this version, he doesn't feel like a real kid at all. He feels like a toy. There's something very robotic about him in this one. He was so perfect, something was off about him, and he clearly just did not feel real. It's almost like he's supposed to be, like, fake, obviously, because he's a puppet, but they tried so hard to make him real. They tried too hard, to the point that he just came off as faker than before, you know? It's because they should have made him a little shithead. That's why the original story works so well, because he was a realistic kid. Have y'all met little boys? Y'all are fucking shitheads. So are little girls. Little kids in general are pricks. And Pinocchio should have stayed a prick. Most people hated this, and everyone's asking, what is the point? We all love the original story, so why would you remake it but in live action when we could all just watch the original? And it makes me want to bring up the whole animations versus live action debate, because I know recently Bob Chapek, who's no longer the CEO of Disney, however, we should still talk about this. Bob Chapek was talking about how he wants to make these live action movies so the adults have something to turn to, because for some reason adults aren't watching animation in his mind. If you're going to just remake the same story in a live action version, or attempt to remake the same story, why would I watch the remake when I might as well just watch the original? I don't get it. I am of the belief you do not need to be 6 years old to enjoy a good animated movie, a good animated TV show. If y'all know me, I still love a good animated show. I mean, I still watch anime at 25 years old. The whole, like, debate about if animation's for just kids or not just pisses me off, because I have coworkers like that. I have friends like that who, like, refuse to watch these great movies that aren't actually meant for kids. Great movies, great TV shows, none of which are meant for kids, but the moment I tell them it's animated, they're like, I don't want to watch it. I don't want to watch some kid show. But it's like, you loved the plot that I was talking about before I told you it was animated. So, like, if they made those into live action and that's what got you to watch it, literally, if it's the same exact story, what difference does it make? Why do people hate animated stuff all of a sudden? I don't get it, and especially with Walt Disney. And it's, like, insulting that Bob Chapek said that too, because, like, Walt Disney, first of all, Disney started as, you know, like a small animated company down the corner. And Walt Disney himself said he's making movies for everyone to enjoy, not just for kids. So it gets me that people will call all these Disney movies kids movies when they're supposed to be for everyone, and then remake them into live action so the adults can like them. But then the adults are hating the live action versions and going back to those animated movies. Shouldn't that tell you something? It's just a messy topic, a messy conversation. I'm glad Bob Chapek's not the CEO anymore. I really hope Hollywood stops with the live action remakes, because I think it's getting old. We're all enjoying the original content, so why bother ruining something? If it's not broken, don't fix it. I just personally think in 2022 everyone needs to stop having the mindset that animation's just for kids. Some of y'all are missing out on some great stories by ignoring everything that animation has to offer. But whatever, that is a very long rant just to describe how much I hate this movie. I ended up giving this movie 1.5 out of 5 stars. It would have been lower, but again, I did finish it, and I actually did end up watching movies even worse this year, but I will get to those whatever month. So the next movie I watched is a horror movie that one of my coworkers actually wanted me to watch, and that is The House of the Devil. This is by Ty West, who recently came out with X and Pearl, and it's about a woman who needs to babysit this house, and things are amiss. If you read any synopsis about this movie, it's about like this family who has a huge secret, but the title of the movie and the opening card at the beginning they very much give away what that secret is. And I've seen many a film with this plot line. However, there was something about this one that that just engrossed me. I couldn't stop watching, and I remember just sitting there like this the whole time, like holding myself. There's just something so eerie about this movie and the way it's told, and I was deeply unsettled throughout the whole thing. My favorite part about this film is the design as well. So because this story takes place in the 80s, and I didn't even realize the movie itself came out in 2009 until the very end, because when you watch the movie, it has the visual quality and also the audio quality of an 80s movie. So what I was actually watching was historical fiction, but what I felt like I was watching a horror movie that came out in the 80s. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like this film so much, because by making those creative choices, it feels like Ty West made a timeless film. I guess I can best summarize my review. There's something timeless, eerie, and unsettling about this horror flick. But I ended up giving this movie 5 out of 5 stars. I could not get myself to rate it any lower, but I'm not really sure why. We all watch a film that's 5 out of 5 and we don't know why, and that's this movie for me. Like, realistically, I feel like I should rate it lower, like 4 out of 5, but I don't know, man. There's just something about that viewing experience. The next movie I watched was another recommendation by a coworker, and that was Vivarium. This is about a couple that moves to a suburban town where they're the only ones, and they are forced to take care of a baby. I don't really have much to say about this film other than that it was boring. The little boy was annoying, and I know he was supposed to be, like, that was the whole point of that dynamic, of that familial dynamic. But boy, was it unenjoyable to watch, especially when he started screaming. I had to take my headphones off. This whole movie is supposed to be an allegory for a specific bird species in the wild. I can't really talk about what it is because then it spoils the movie, but I wish they actually explained that allegory more. Like, for example, the only reason I saw it, because, well, one, they show you, like, a live nature video in the beginning of the movie, but because they don't really explain exactly what's happening in that clip, it's almost hard to put the pieces together. I know for me personally, the only reason I was able to do it was because I learned about the specific species in my college classes. My coworkers have never heard of that species, so for the coworker who told me to watch this movie is like, you have to watch it, it makes no sense, they make this stupid ass connection. And like, I mean, I hate to defend this film, but like, it's not stupid if you know about that bird species. Like, the film does make sense, but like, that's what I'm talking about. If you don't know about the species, it could go right over your head. So I just wish, for the sake of storytelling, they just could have made it a little easier on their viewers. So 2 out of 5 stars for this film, and goddamn fuck the suburbs. Next film was a rewatch. It was Titanic. I don't really think I need to tell y'all what this 3-hour movie is about, but oh my god, there is something about this film where every time it's on TV, I have to stop what I'm doing and watch it. I don't know why. Truth be told, I don't actually particularly love this film. I could do my whole life without the whole Jack and Rose love story. My favorite part of the film is when the boat starts sinking and you see all that history like seep into the script. The more I read about the true story of the Titanic, the more little details I find in the movie. James Cameron's research on this project is kind of insane. He includes the smallest of true facts that you wouldn't even think about, but I find, as a kind of sorta history buff, I find it incredibly impressive that he can do that. I actually almost didn't watch this movie, but I just recognized the music from the other room, walked into the living room, my dad was watching it. I was kind of just standing there just seeing what scene he was watching. Next thing you know, it was literally 10 minutes later and I was still standing there staring at the screen, listing off all these random facts I knew about the Titanic to my father, and it was at that point where I was like, you know what, I should just shut the fuck up grab a blanket, grab some hot chocolate, and sit my ass down and watch this movie with him. So that's what I did. My Heart Will Go On was stuck in my head for like weeks after that. But also the older I get, the more I cry at this film. Near the end with all the frozen bodies and they show the mom with the frozen baby. It was during this watch that I connected the dots. That mother was the same lady they show earlier asking the captain where she should go. They zoom in on her baby. They zoom in on the captain's sad face, and then he locks himself in his room. Tears, literal tears, were running down my face. And as a reminder, just because a door is big enough for two people does not mean it's strong enough for two people. And they literally show that in the movie, and the fact that it's been, this movie came out I think the year I was born, 1997, the fact that it's been 25 years and we're still having these goddamn arguments, I am convinced y'all did not watch the same movie I watched. So then the next movie I watched was Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales. I was trying to watch 31 like horror, thriller, Halloween themed movies for this spooky season. I didn't reach that goal, but this was one of the things I watched to attempt to reach that goal. And it's just basically Poe's story in some amusement park. Girl, I don't know. It was okay. I found the humor to be cheesy and juvenile, but I was also just clearly not the target audience for this specific film. So I didn't like it. 2 out of 5 stars. The penultimate movie I watched in the month of September, I actually reacted to this, is The Cabinet of Caligari. It's basically about this weird dude named Dr. Caligari who has this test subject named Cesare who is a sleepwalker and commits crimes while he is sleepwalking. Again, I reacted to this, so I definitely don't want to spend too much time on this. I'll link the video up above. But I ended up giving this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is one of the best movies I watched in 2022. I loved the usage of the small space they had. The setting itself was very disjointed. A lot of things were on an angle. A lot of things, they really played with perspective in that set design too. And it felt crazy, and by the end of the movie it kind of makes sense why it does that, but you kind of feel like you're going insane. And the plot twist, I did not see it coming. I was so shook that at first my rating for this movie was only going to be like 3 out of 5 stars, but with that plot twist hitting me in the gut the way it did, 4.5 out of 5 stars. And let me tell you, this movie, like during the viewing I wasn't really scared, but like editing Home Alone at 2 a.m. I was freaking out. I was looking over my shoulder for those shadows because oh my god, is it creepy if you watch it in the right setting. So finally, the last movie I watched in the month of September was Rob Zombie's The Munsters. The Munsters was a TV show that came out in the 60s, and this is basically a prequel to that TV show, and it's basically about how Herman and Lily Munster met. My views on this movie are a mess. This movie's flabbergasting, and I don't particularly mean that in a good way. So, first things first though, the set designs and the costuming in this movie are glorious. I was so here for it. I really love the look of Lily Munster, love the look of Herman, love the look of everyone, and I absolutely love the set designs. I mean, if you're gonna have a story about a vampire falling in love with Frankenstein's monster, go big or go home. And Rob Zombie went big, and as he should. He did it the way you're supposed to. Having said that, despite loving this movie visually, as a story, did I cringe my way through this. The story of this movie is camp, but it is camp beyond belief to the point it's almost kind of startling. The jokes are corny, they are cheesy, but not in a way that you kind of laugh, not in like a knee slap or slapstick kind of way. It's in a way where they say something and you go, who? The humor is very over the top to the point that I feel like Herman and Lily were mischaracterized. I've seen very few Munsters episodes as a kid. My thing was the Addams Family. I was an Addams Family kid. But I did see a few Munsters episodes in passing. I just don't remember Lily and Herman being this oblivious to the world around them. And I don't remember them acting so juvenile. It was weird acting grown adults act like they were 14, which maybe was the point, but also I kind of got the feeling Rob Zombie was not going for that. Rob Zombie's love was clearly there. Our characters still look like the original characters of the 60s. He took so many inspirations from those episodes, but despite the love being there, this film still felt like a very weird parody. I very much felt like it was making fun of the monsters rather than appreciating them. His wife's portrayal of Lily made Lily seem stupid, and I don't remember Lily being stupid. And Herman is very endearing in the original show, but in this one, he was just kind of like a big goof that you kind of just want to push out of your life. He was very annoying. I would not want to associate with someone like that. He was driving me crazy throughout this movie. And it's just such a shame because when it comes to like weird shows like this, I feel like weird people should be the ones tackling the subject, and like Rob Zombie is a very weird guy. So I was expecting a lot more from this, and I was expecting this to be so much better than it was, but I still gave this movie 2 out of 5 stars. It feels like a 1 out of 5 star movie, but again, I love the visuals, I love the set designs, I love the costumes, and I couldn't stop watching. The perfect phrase to describe this movie is a train wreck you cannot look away from. But I just feel bad though because it's not funny. Like, it's almost embarrassing for them. I felt a lot of secondhand embarrassment watching this. Although, all that being said, I did like the recreation at the end of the film. At the end of the film, they do recreate the original opening credits, and I'm a sucker for when remakes do that. And I watched this with my dad, who absolutely despised it due to his love of the original TV show. So yes, when the movie ended, we sat down and watched about 10 episodes of the original Munsters live action TV show. And that is it for this video, and y'all, I kept stuttering and stumbling over my words, so this is going to be a hell of a video to edit. It's going to be a fucking bitch. But if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe, y'all know the drill, and without further ado, I'm going to peace out, and I'll see you guys later. Ciao a tutti.